Okay, all right. Call this meeting of the Board of Supervisors together. First deal would be the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor McDevitt, and I'll ask that we remain standing for a moment of silence for the people in Ukraine. Peter?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I ask that you say a prayer for Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Mr. Conover?
Here.
Mr. Leggett?
Here.
Mr. Diamond?
Here.
Mr. McDevitt?
Here.
Ms. Bramer? Here. Mr. Bruno?
Here.
Mr. Driscoll?
Here.
Mrs. Frazier? Here. Mr. Drossy?
Here.
Ms. Hogan?
Here.
Mr. Dickinson?
Here.
Mr. Merlino?
Here.
Mr. Stroud?
Here.
Mr. Wild?
Here.
Mr. McGowan?
Here.
Ms. Seaver? Here. Mr. Beatty?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Runyon? Here. Chairman Garrity?
Here.
Quorum is established.
Okay. The motion to approve the minutes of February 18th, 2022 board meeting subject to correction. Motion by Supervisor Dickinson, second by Supervisor Merlino. Any corrections or discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We have a presentation to be made by Supervisor Merlino.
Good morning, all. Good morning. This morning, we're here to give a presentation out to some outstanding women of our county. Some of you know about this, and some don't. It was a well-kept secret for almost a month, and I'm just proud to say that they didn't find out why we're being here. All my tourism board knew about it because I personally called them. It's not something we had a vote on. It was just something that tourism, the county, and the private sector have been working on for about a month. So our administrator knows about it, and our chairman of the board knows about it. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Kevin to give a little speech.
Okay. Thank you. The Warren County Board of Supervisors wishes to recognize and honor 5 outstanding businesswomen in Warren County's hospitality and tourism sector for their distinguished leadership and professional contributions during the past 2 years in COVID-19 pandemic. Each of them helped our Warren County tourism and hospitality businesses survive many challenges posed by the pandemic. They helped our businesses understand and comply with federal and state mandates, develop health protocols to protect our guests and our employees, recruit employees to serve our guests, and communicate information accurately to our visitors and prospective customers. Even in the midst of these challenges, they found ways to help our hospitality businesses thrive and grow. All were instrumental in bringing ice castles to Warren County and making it a resounding success with more than 80,000 visitors in 2022. All contributed to our successful effort to introduce Warren County Lake George region to new summer guests. Indeed, through their efforts, Warren County turned what could have been an economic disaster into a remarkable success for the benefit of thousands of local individuals and families who rely on our visitors for their livelihoods. These 5 leaders helped ensure that the world knew that Warren County Lake George region would continue to be a place of recreation, relaxation, safety, and health for millions of people who visit us each year for a break from the stresses of their daily lives. Their work was done unselfishly behind the scenes without concern for public recognition or credit, and in many cases was seen only by their colleagues and peers. The long-term success of Warren County is built on the strength and sustainable contributions of leaders like these. We hope that their example will be set the tone for the future leaders and for the young people considering a career in hospitality or in any other field in Warren County. This is a place where your ideas and contributions are welcome. This is a place where you can truly make a difference. To the 5 of you, we offer our sincere thanks. Please keep these awards visible so that everyone who passes by understands the importance they are to all of us. A banquet will be held in your honor on Friday, May 6th. Please mark your calendars. We will send out information soon. So at this time, Gene, the first honoree would be,
I'd just like to introduce Tom Gay. He's from the Sagamore, and he's going to be a representative from the hospitality and community person giving out these plaques. So we'll stand over here.
the first honoree is Joan Connolly of Warren County Tourism. Here you go, Tom. Sorry about that. Second honoree, Gina Mitzer, Executive Director, Lake George Regional Chamber of Commerce and Convention Visitors Bureau. Third honoree, Chief Executive and Chair of the Board of Directors of Fort William Henry, Kathy Munsell. Next honoree is Sarah Mannix, Founder and President, Chief Executive Officer of Mannix Marketing in Glens Falls. Sarah? And the last honoree would be Amy Collins, Director of Tourism and Business Development in the city of Glens Falls, who couldn't make it today, I guess, but
He
is
should be on.
available on Zoom. Amy, are you there? Well, we don't see her. But anyways, Amy is our 5th honoree.
All right. Mr. Gay is going to read what's on the plaques that these ladies have. So you all know what it says.
Really quickly, an amazing group. Thank you very much for personally worked with all of you through this last couple of years. Outstanding. The plaque says Warren County Women of the Year. With gratitude, the Warren County Board of Supervisors honors these 5 amazing women for their outstanding contributions to Warren County through the years 2020 and 2021, helping successfully lead our tourism and hospitality community through the global COVID pandemic.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Well, thank you. Ms. Joanne. Are the graduates here? Okay, next up, we have 2 new graduates of the county's leadership training program. Adam Baker, DPW Assistant Engineer. Is Adam here? No. And also Robin Mapp, Airport Manager. Robin? Either in attendance, we'll make sure that they get. Okay. Now we have a privilege of the floor. If anybody would like to comment to the Board of Supervisors, I ask that you please state your name for the record and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you. Yes, please, anybody who wants to address the board, come to the podium. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Assad, and this is regarding a vacant land that Warren County owns, and the property address is 275 Bay Road. And there was an auction about a few months ago, and we were the highest bidder at the auction. But the Warren County rejected our bid. So I'm here to tell you something about, how this whole thing started. And ask you guys some questions then. So first of all, this auction was advertised at Warren County deed sale that they had about a few months ago. And at the deed sale, there are about, I would say, more than 200 people there. And all of those people are contractors, and all of them are interested buying property from the county. So this auction was advertised at that sale. So they did have a sale, and even before the sale and after the sale, it was very well advertised. And the county hired a very reputable firm who conducts these auctions, and they do a very, very good job when they advertise these auctions. So almost like all the people who are in this county or even the neighboring counties, they are aware of this auction. So at the auction day, auction started, and there were about 20, 25 people there bidding, and I was bidding there too, and I end up with the highest bid. And I usually buy quite a bit of properties from our county auctions. And I understand that the county has a final say whether approving it or denying it, the bid amount. And this is like the first time I see that the county denied or rejected a bid. And usually they deny or reject the bid if the taxpayer, if, for example, if I owe any back taxes to the county, or if I, in the past, I bid something and the county, and I did not honor my bid, kind of like blacklisted in the county's record, then they will reject my bid, saying you are not, worth trusting. But in this case, I mean, I have a clean record with the county, and this was a very well advertised auction. It's a public auction. I go there and I bid, and my bid is denied. So few questions I need to ask. First of all, the reason was given to me is that I said, why the county denied it? The reason was given to me, the county is not interested selling it at this point. And I was like, then why they advertise and why they hired this company, and this advertising, the auction company, they spent quite a bit of money advertising, and then you end up saying they're not going to sell it. So I need to find out the reason for rejecting my bid. So if there's anything that I can answer your question, so see if you can reconsider my request for buying this vacant lot, bringing it back. If I buy it, it comes back to the county's tax roll. I'm going to start paying the taxes on it. Right now, county's roll, nobody's getting any taxes. And that's number one. But two, my understanding was advertising, and then you end up in the business of making money. So usually, not usually, like most of the time, whatever the bid the county gets it, they sell the properties. I mean, and you guys know this. Go look at the county records, tax deeds. Rarely you will reject it in a bid, but there's got to be a reason for it. In my case, I don't see any reason. So I need to find out why my bid was rejected.
Okay, we'll give this to the county attorney's office and hopefully we can get you an answer.
Beautiful. Thank
Is
you.
that
That's
okay?
all. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hassan. Anybody else wish to address the board tonight? No one? Did you? want-
I just had a question. If the member of the public who just spoke is willing to answer whether or not he's still interested in purchasing the property at the bid amount.
I'll have the county attorneys ask him that. They said they would handle that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Can't get that in.
Anybody else wish to address the board? Okay. Report of chairman.
Excuse me.
First off, I'd like to honor Kristen Finney of Public Health. She has 30 years of service this month. Congratulations to Christy. My report, February 28th, attended Board of Supervisors meeting, the 19th. attended an Eagle Scout ceremony for Peter Steck. 22nd, APA local government meeting. 23rd, Association of Towns and Villages meeting. 24th, attended inter-county legislative in Fulton County with Rachel Sieber, Craig Leggett, and Frank Thomas. 25th, attended committee meetings. The 28th, attended some of the committee meetings. On March 2nd, I met with Michael Ostrander, Executive Director of Warren, Washington County's IDA. On the 3rd, attended budget and personnel committee meetings. On March 8th, I attended the second negotiation session with the Teamsters Union for Warren County Corrections Officers. On March 10th, I attended a meeting on potential sales of the Tahoe's Railroad Line. And then on the 17th of March, I attended LDC meeting. I also I'd like to congratulate Dylan Shell of Queensbury and Tristan Hitchcock of Warrensburg for winning New York State Wrestling Championships. Dylan is a senior at Queensbury High. He went undefeated 35-0, and he won the state championship in 170-pound weight class. Tristan is a junior at Warrensburg Central School. He went 47-2, and he won the state championship in the 285-pound weight class. And it's my understanding both of these outstanding young men are on their way to the national wrestling meet in down south somewhere. So congratulations to both of those young people, and anybody else that has any outstanding young people, please bring it to our attention. Thank you. Report committee chairs. Supervisor Mendevitt.
Thank you very much. Just 3 items, resolution 128, 129, and 130, basically housekeeping type issues that need to be resolved. Secondly, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for putting together that proclamation as it related to Ukraine. Okay, it's important that we recognize that Mr. Putin's goals and tactics to crush a population through starvation and violence is a military tactic that was basically outlawed in medieval times. Hospitals, schools, and children, in setting the stage for possible chemical weapons. If you haven't seen a very new video on social media, it's just been out early this morning. Arnold Schwarzenegger, it appeals to the Russian people to come together, and he's putting together some very valid and honest information. So again, Mr. Chairman, thank you for the proclamation. I think it makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Supervisor Brainer.
No report.
Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you. County Facilities Committee met on Monday, February 28th. There are 4 resolutions, 119, 120, 121, and 122. I won't bother to read them. They pertain to the airport, primarily the restriping of the runways, et cetera. But number 122, I will make a motion to withdraw that resolution because public hearing is needed in order to commence with the secret review, and Rich Ayers engineer is working on a new plan to avoid the wetlands area, yada, yada. I don't know if Mr. Hajos wants to comment at all on this.
Superintendent, do you wish to speak on 122?
Yes, just very quickly, there were some environmental issues that they had regarding some riverine wetlands, which I brought through committee. They haven't been able to resolve those yet. I'm meeting with them this afternoon out on the airport and also with their engineer to see if we can resolve this. So I asked to have this pulled because there's no sense in us going through the lease yet until we have that information in hand.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll make a motion that
We do that now. Motion by Supervisor Bruno to pull resolution 122. Do we have a second by Supervisor McGowan? Any discussion? All those in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, 122 is pulled.
thank you. And that concludes my report unless anybody has any questions.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. The Human Services met last month. I can never remember the date because we switched them around. Out of that meeting came no resolutions, but I will be requesting support of floor resolutions 3 and 4, resolution number 4, in regards to a memo that I sent all of the supervisors on March 10th relating to a position up at Countryside Adult Home. And the Supervisor Frazier will be covering an issue related to veteran services. Cornell Cooperative Extension has a couple of activities coming up in the next few months. On Friday, April 15th is an opportunity for all Warren County residents and employees of Warren County to support Cornell Cooperative Extension at a Thunder hockey game. Again, that's Friday, April 15th. Tickets are available by members of the Board of Supervisors who sit on the Cooperative Extension Board, as well as through the Cornell Cooperative Extension. The youth fair planning for Saturday, August 16th is already in place, and planning for the annual Cornell Cooperative Extension Golf Tournament on Saturday, August 27th is also in place. Thank you for your time.
Supervisor Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Health Services met on February the 25th, and as a result of those meetings, we have 4 resolutions, 131 through 134. The first one, 131, is from Office of Community Services, 132, 133 are from Office for the Aging, and 134 is from Health Service, or from Public Health, and it deals with the rabies plan, which is a very lengthy document. I would appreciate your support on that. Supervisor Driscoll and I have been participating in the committee that's reviewing the peer-to-peer proposals. We've met a couple of times. We're going to meet again this week, but I will tell you, it's a very interesting process. And I don't know about Mr. Driscoll, but I felt I learned a lot from the meeting last week, just from the other people that are part of that committee. So we're moving right along. We hope to kind of get this taken care of like within the next month or so. So thank you.
Supervisor Drossy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our committee, Public Safety and Criminal Justice, did meet on February 25th. And at our last month's meeting, I neglected to announce that our vice chair for the committee is Supervisor Bramer, and the second vice chair is Supervisor Sieber. So I'm very grateful to them and for their willingness to participate and serve in that role. We have a few resolutions today, 123 to 127, that we're asking support of. And finally, our committee will participate with the Personnel Committee on the interview panel for the new public defender. At least that's the plan right now. And I've asked Supervisor Bramer to take the lead on that. She'll represent us as the lead on the interviewer for that panel. That's it. Thank you.
Supervisor Hogan, anything?
Oh, no, nope. Thanks.
Supervisor Dickinson.
Yes. OCTAX met sometime. I don't know what it was. We have 3 resolutions, 135, 136, 137. They're pretty straightforward. They're OCTAX payments. Claudia, I'm surprised you skipped right over ARPA. Were you?
Go for it, Dennis.
Claudia and I co-chair ARPA. My ego was crushed when that happened, and I've had time to calm down, and we've had a couple meetings, and I want to say I'm very happy that we have a co-chair. It's a very large committee. It's responsible for spending $12.4 million, and we can use all the help we get, and I really appreciate Claudia's experience on the board. And I think together we'll be able to pull this off. We had 2 meetings. One was basically get together, get to know you kind of meeting, and figure out where we were. And then we had a second meeting, and we committed about $2+ million in 5 or 6 projects. We're hoping to do that on a regular basis, pick out 4, 5, 6 projects. look at them intensely and then decide what we're going to do with them. So we're moving in the right direction. And again, I'd like to thank you, Claudia, and look forward to working with you. And that's my report.
Thank you. Anything to add? Supervisor Bremer?
No, Dennis hit a lot of the points. It's going to be a difficult process because people have different ideas about how to spend that money, but we're doing a really good job in the committee hashing out the ideas, and we have a process and a ground laid now for how we're going to go forward and pick the best projects. Just like Dennis said, we're going to do a few each month. So if you guys are interested in hearing about those proposals, come to the ARPA committee meetings.
Okay, and I also understand that now you have a second chairman, Supervisor Seaver.
Yes.
It's going to be in case either one of you are incapacitated. That's good.
Hopefully that doesn't happen, but if we're not available, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you've done a good job. Supervisor Morlino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to leave the report up to Joanne, our leader of tourism, because we had a couple of Zoom meetings with Ice Castle, and half a dozen people were involved in it. And I'll let her explain the whole thing so we know what's going on.
Okay, Joanne, please.
Thank you. Good morning. So the big question on everyone's mind is, will Ice Castles be back again next year? We did have a debrief call. Some county officials, town, village, the supervisors were there, CBB, DPW, and the Ice Castles team. And at this point, yes, they do plan to come back in 2023. There was a little talk about a multi-year agreement, but they were very upfront and honest that the weather was a little bit marginal this year. They did have to close for 5 days. They had already sold tickets and had to refund the money for the 5 days. But we have heard that 80,000 number. They did sell a realized 80,000 ticket sales, but they had to refund between 15 and 20,000. So if they could have realized those days that they closed, it would have been phenomenal. It would have exceeded their expectations. So they do plan to come back next year. We have 8 months to pray to the weather gods for a nice cold winter. They have some thoughts about how to change things up for next year. If you purchase tickets, you know that you had to buy them at a 30-minute interval. So you would choose 5 o'clock or choose 5:30, and only a specific number of tickets were sold per half-hour time slot, just because of the capacity of the castle. So they have some redesign thoughts in mind, how they could increase that capacity. So if we do have a shorter season, they can still have more people go through comfortably and still be able to enjoy the attraction. One of the possibilities was a light walk, which they have at another location, and perhaps that would be at the playground on the other side of the castle. So a number of things that they are already talking about on how to improve this for next year. The one thing that they did say, and we had heard this before, is that the outpouring of support from everyone in the Warren County community, all government and public entities and businesses, was just overwhelming, and they felt very welcome in the community and look forward to coming back next year. Between the CVB and my tourism department, we're working on an economic impact that we would like to share with you as we get some of the data back. We've surveyed the local businesses, and Ice Castles is also surveying all of the people that purchase tickets. So we'll share information back and forth, and we'll come back to our respective committees with an economic impact report.
Thank you. Anything else? Supervisor Dickinson?
Thank you. Joanne, well put. I was really pleased with them. They were really good to work with, and they did a great job. I thought they said they sold 80,000 tickets plus 15 or 20,000 more that they refunded.
Right. They did
Correct.
say that.
That is correct.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Just didn't want anybody to think that 15 or 20 was subtracted from the 80. The 80 was the number. The rest would have been close to 100,000 if we didn't have the bad weather. Thank you,
Okay.
Joe.
Thank you. Supervisor McGowan, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you. A question for Kevin. How's the melting going?
Springster.
Kevin was at the meeting.
It's going. It's slow. As the weather temperatures increase, it'll.
But I mean, nothing. I know we had a little bit of a fear of you know, if it was too fast, too rapid, a lot of, because the ice was thick on the floor alone. You know, not even the walls were just amazing. I mean, I really enjoyed going through it. It was, you know, quite, even if it was a warm evening.
Yeah, our biggest concern was that first one is how much water, you know, is that going to, and what's that going to do to our infield in that park? And then would we have any issues with any detention ponds around there or them causing damage when they start to knock it down? They've assured me and through that meeting that their rubber track excavators and skid steers, there's still a lot of ice packed on the ground so that then when they move around and knock things down, it's not causing any damage to it. And we've seen it. And what they're doing is spreading it out over that whole infield so it'll melt a little bit quicker off.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, Supervisor Stroud.
No committee report. Thank you, Chairman. However, if you saw Lake George Mirror this month, you would see there was 2 articles that deserve being spoken to. One is the Bolton Supervisor Ron Conover and his efforts at green technology and propelling the clean and healthy economy and environment for Lake George. As you know, and the fund for Lake George, now Lake George Association was involved in this as well. But to reduce the amount of nitrates going into the groundwater through this new bark chip process is outstanding. And the fact that he worked very hard to make that happen really deserves credit. The other person here, and this too was in the Lake George Mirror, is Supervisor Dennis Dickinson. Along with Mayor Blaze and others, plant operator Tom Schutt, they were able to make a $24 million state-of-the-art wastewater treatment plant happen. Now, the other town supervisors here know how much work and effort to make something big like this happen. They did it. They deserve credit. And as a result, we have a lake with better water quality. So I want to thank Brian Conover and Dennis Dickinson.
Thank you, Brian.
That's it from me. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Economic Growth and Development met on the 28th of last month. There's one resolution that was referred to Finance, and it's in relation to creating a new comprehensive plan for Warren County. The last one was 40 years ago, and I'm looking for support from the rest of the Board of Supervisors today. And if there are any questions, I'm hoping that Ethan Gaddy might be on a little bit later to provide some insight that way.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Cowan. Nothing? Oh.
Wake up.
Anything?
Me? No, sorry. I thought I was next, but I didn't understand McGowan. Thank you. No report.
Thank you. Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a report today under NISAC and NACO. I attended the Rural Caucus meeting, Public Safety and Criminal Justice Steering Committees and Resilient County calls this past month with NACO. I also attended the NISAC training that was in Albany from the 14th to the 16th. I attended for the full 3 days, including a 6-hour training on declaring states of emergency. That being said, I just want to highlight to the board here today that our resolutions chair of NISAC is once again Supervisor Bramer from Glens Falls. That's an extraordinary accomplishment, and she led forward quite a bit of legislative initiatives this year. Along with that, I'm also a member of the Public Safety and Criminal Justice Steering Committee and attended that meeting as well. This coming week, we will have discussion on multiple possible resolutions to come before you from both NISAC and NACO at our committee meeting. I also wanted to take this opportunity to thank our chairman for the opportunity to work with Don Lehman, our public information officer, Kevin Hajos, our highway superintendent, and Amanda Allen, our court clerk or our board clerk, as we changed the lights out front to show our support for the people of Ukraine and to have those be in both blue and gold, following multiple municipalities in New York State and their leadership with this. We also drafted a proclamation and coordinated with many not-for-profits in terms of donations. Lastly, during that training, I attended a meeting on Monday of open meeting laws. And I have with me today a copy of the most recent advisory opinion, which I will either put in your mailboxes or pass out. And I did want to just briefly give you that update. It's something that our county attorney has been calling our attention to. Unfortunately, last year we did have a training to the board on the rules, and what we've come to learn both from NISAC and the Center for Open Government and from our county attorney here is that of course, rules are important in following them as a body. And while we did adhere to some of the guidance from our county attorney's office, there's been some changes that our county attorney, since he's been on board, has already addressed, such as quorums, which was addressed in this training. One of the most significant things that were addressed was as it relates to our committee structure. And I just want to read briefly from this final advisory memo that was stated. Members of the legislature, or in our case, Board of Supervisors, who are not members of a committee may attend the committee meeting, but it is the intent is for the meeting to be a committee meeting and not a meeting of the legislature. The non-committee members should not be involved in the discussion of committee business. Non-committee legislators should not be permitted to comment, should only be permitted to comment in the same way that members of the general public are permitted to comment. You can imagine my disappointment attending this training and reading this advisory memo. For years, I followed the advice from our supervisor from Bolton and the many of us who have all sat in committee meetings and very passionately and listened empathetically, argued passionately, and debated with respect different issues of topics at committee meetings. And what this advisory opinion and the training made clear to us was that if you are not a member of a committee, you are only permitted to engage in the way that the public would. And I've so appreciated the ability of this board to see all sides of things and to talk about things. And just this last month, we have so many resolutions before us because of this very respectful debate in committee. So I would ask that our county attorney please work with Chris O'Neill from the Center for Open Government. And I know that we're going to be looking for clarification on how this works within a board like ours with weighted votes, and how will we continue to value each other's opinions when it's only at this full board meeting where we'll debate as a full body with majority weighted votes. And I'm deeply concerned over that. But of course, following rules is not just a matter of minutia, it is a matter of importance. And I will adhere, I hope we all adhere to these guidelines. And once we know it, we're responsible for sharing it and talking about it and correcting it. So I would ask for your support in our county attorney working with this state office, coming back to our board and talking about how will we respect each other's majority votes or weighted votes and our representation here, so that we can fully represent on a committee our constituency. And I look forward to those discussions moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few comments. The ARPA committee, which I'm a member, that was the 4th and 5th meeting, not the 1st and 2nd. I think co-chair might have been mistaken. That was the 4th and 5th meeting of that committee. And I want to thank former Chairwoman Hogan for doing an outstanding job for the first 3 meetings. She laid down a phenomenal foundation and direction. And the co-chairs are picking up on that. So that was the 4th and 5th meetings, not 1st and 2nd. Second, I was moved by the individual came today wondering why his bid wasn't accepted. I don't know of any examples where we have not accepted a bid. I'm a firm believer in smaller government, not bigger government. I don't think we should be buying up everything and taking everything in foreclosure and hanging on to it. I'm not a believer in that. There are cases where it makes a little sense, but most of the time, no, it does not. Let the private sector, let the people paying the taxes continue to do so. And let's have a smaller government. So here we have the individual who had the highest bid, comes to this committee befuddled as to why his bid wasn't accepted. No one could give him an answer. No one would want to give him an answer. Yet he makes a very, very solid case as to why his bid was not accepted. He doesn't understand. Here we could put land back on the tax rolls, not just for 1 year, not for 18,000 or 20,000, for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. This is a gift that keeps on giving. And yet
some of the members of this board feel, nah, we want bigger government. We want more government. We want to own everything up here in Warren County. Well, I'm a firm believer that that's not the right way to go. And I think if you ever did a survey with the taxpayers of Warren County, I believe they'd overwhelmingly agree with me on that. And then the third comment I want to make is at the last meeting, distinguished Dr. Juckins came up and expressed his opinions as to why he was terminated from a board when he never even met the person who terminated him. He asked the chairman, would he please reply to him? And some supervisors asked that that reply be made public. The chairman didn't send it out to the board, but Dr. Juckins did send it out to some supervisors. And I'm going to read the reply from the chairman to Dr. Juckins. Dr. Juckins, I'm responding to a request submitted at the Board of Supervisor meeting held on February 18th, 2022 for an explanation as to why I made the decision to remove you from the Warren County Local Development Corporation Board of Directors. Appointments to the LDC are directed by the Chair of the Board of Supervisors. I was made aware that your appointment at the end of December before the LDC held their organizational meeting for 2022. Now, that's all correct. He was duly appointed by the former chairwoman. That's accurate. I called Mr. Stiffon to confirm this information and asked that he reach out to Robert Landry to determine whether he'd be available to serve on the LDC. Mr. Landry advised me he was agreeable to serving on the board of directors, and there had not yet been an organizational meeting of the LDC. I decided to appoint Mr. Landry and rescind your appointment. So I guess if we're going to get in the habit of every time a new chairperson takes the chair and rescinds all the appointments from the former chair, I think that's a very slippery slope we're getting into. So the new chair comes in, okay, I'm rescinding that appointment, that appointment, that appointment, and that appointment. I don't think that's good government. And let's just recap very briefly here. This was a citizen volunteer with impeccable qualifications. A leading doctor in this county who volunteered his time to serve on that committee. So what do? We kick him off and we put another elected official in there. Another elected official to take the place of a citizen volunteer. Now, I don't know about many people in this room, but that to me is exactly the opposite of what we should be doing up here. We should be encouraging more volunteers, not less. Volunteer, we kick you off. We put another elected official in there because we know best. So I was very discouraged. I was sad that this letter wasn't sent out to the board like the chairman indicated he would do so.
Never indicated.
But now, yes, you did. Check the record.
Yep.
Check the record. And so I'm glad it's now read into the record. And again, I apologize to Dr. Juckins for the behavior of some on this board. Thank you.
Thank you. The county attorney would like to address the property.
Concerning the Bay Road property, this board passed a resolution in August. It was resolution 316 of 2021. And what that resolution provided for was a online public auction to gauge interest in the property. And this board approved that the auction would have a minimum sales price of $68,700. And the board also reserved the right to reject any bids in the Board of Supervisors' discretion. I don't have any information on what the bid was or the process or procedures that was used, but I did want to clarify based on public comment that there were some preconditions that this board approved as part of auctioning that property in an online auction format. And I will be following up with Mr. Assad next week.
Thank you. Supervisor Dickinson, you had a quick question?
Yes, a quick one. Thank you, Mr. Elman. That's very clear about what we did. And we had all the right to rescind that offer. Secondly, I've only been appointed to this committee, ARPA committee, recently. So when I said 1 and 2 meetings. Those were my first and second meetings after Chairman Hogan stepped down. So your information is incorrect and misleading.
Supervisor Thomas.
You've only showed up twice.
Thank you,
Excuse me,
Mayor.
Supervisor Thomas has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Budget Committee met on March 3rd. At that committee meeting, we discussed and reviewed the multi-year plan as put together by the county administrator and the assistant administrator. Thank you very much. That's a very good tool for looking forward. It's not 100% accurate, but it's a way to look forward. There was also discussion on the non-bargaining pay increases. We reviewed the chart that was put together, explained how it was done, and look for improvements, and maybe possibly look at other models or other ways to do it. So that's an ongoing thing. The Personnel Committee also met that day, right after the budget meeting. Out of that committee meeting, we have Resolution 145, which amends the standing rules to change for hiring and filling of existing vacant positions with all county departments. Basically, as long as the job is budgeted and it becomes vacant, I believe they don't have to return back to their committee. They can, for approval, they can just go ahead and fill the position and let their committee know that they did that. We also had some discussion about the travel policy. This came out of a request from I think from the Sheriff's Department, and we're looking to expand that to all departments. Set a dollar amount and include all expenses. And as long as you have the money in your budget and you don't go over that dollar amount, you can just go ahead and the department head can go ahead and authorize the travel. And there was one other request to ask the Civil Service Department to generate guidance for advertising vacant positions and provide a checklist, and also for the process for dismissing an employee. So that was pretty much what we talked about, and that's my report.
Okay, Supervisor Runyon, anything? The bridge is open though.
Yes.
The water is good?
Yes, things are good.
Good. Supervisor Conover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Works Highway Committee met on February 28th. That's represented in your packets by resolutions 138 through 142. I would ask, Mr. Chairman, at this time that resolutions 139 and 141 be withdrawn.
You make that a motion?
If I could, please. Make
A motion by Supervisor Conover to withdraw. We have a second by Supervisor Dickinson. The reason?
And the reason is the bids came in hugely above our budgeted amounts.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any further discussion?
The numbers again?
Supervisor, 138, 139, correct?
139 and 141.
Oh, 141?
141, yes.
Supervisor Bramer, you had a question? Cliff?
That was my question. So 139 and
Yeah,
141.
I got it wrong. Okay. Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you. What I'd like to suggest though, going forward, particularly on 139, 141, that we include bid tabulation sheets. I've asked for that in the past, and I'd like to know, when it's time to award contracts, regardless of the cost, I'd like to find out who the lowest bidder is, and what the actual cost is that we're going to approve on that particular calendar day.
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Hajos, that's, if Mr. Hajos is here and listening, so, Kevin, that's so instructed. Send it out to the entire board. A bid tabulation.
Some of the tab sheets are 25 pages long. I think the reason why they didn't include it is because they're going to pull those resolutions today. But maybe they could get the summary sheet. Yeah, okay. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay.
And then if I could continue, Mr. Chairman, 142 is simply a correction in the lease arrangement But I would like to just take a moment just to say relative to what we're seeing on 139 and 141, and that is we're seeing huge increases in the cost of our public projects. And now how long that will continue and whether it'll decline or whether it'll continue to increase. I mean, I don't know whose crystal ball, who's got the best crystal ball in this regard. But the one thing I will say is, as you know, we have a capital infrastructure assessment for the county that includes the towns that goes into the, I don't know, the hundreds of millions of dollars. So you can imagine a 30, 40, 50% increase in the cost of capital construction and what that results in terms of total dollars. And without objection, Mr. Chairman, I think this is a serious enough situation because many of these projects deal with public safety, the welfare of our infrastructure, our roads, et cetera. If I could just ask Mr. Hajos maybe to comment quickly on what he's seeing out there right now relative to these capital costs, because it may be something that requires us to have to go back in and rethink some things. But without objection, I would ask Mr. Hajos maybe to comment.
Superintendent, would you like to?
So I'll step back a little bit and looking at 139 and 141. 139 was for South Johnsburg Road bridges, I believe. They came in probably almost $750,000 over the original estimate of the project. With that being said, we had a meeting with the AGFTC this morning to update the tip. It was approved in the committee meeting this morning. They held a special committee meeting. So I will be bringing that one back to committee next month. And with that, the bid tabs are there. The bid tabs weren't there, Supervisor Diamond, because we pulled them from the committee, but they have been included in the packets from the last time you had asked the question till now. The 141 was a Sagamore Bridge retaining wall. That again was another project, was about $750,000 over. We have actually pulled that and gone back to the engineers and asked them to do a redesign. That project, I believe, was estimated at about $650,000, came in at $1.5 million. So we are not awarding that project at this time. And we're going to have the engineers go back to the drawing board. But we have seen it, and DOT actually on that AGFTC this morning said the same thing. They're seeing that projects are coming in significantly higher due to supply chain demands, due to workers that weren't working the last couple of years, that they couldn't get things out. I think I just heard about a water line project that has probably a 36-week lead time on the ductile iron pipe for that water line project. So we're seeing it across the board. We're not the only ones. DOT is as well. And I'm assuming that if some of the other towns start to put bids out, they'll see the same thing as well.
Thank you. And my only other comment is how pleased I am to see the resolution on Countryside, the improvements at Countryside. I can remember a few years back doing the tour that was arranged by Supervisor Frazier, Edna Frazier, of Countryside and the needs that existed at Countryside, and to Supervisor Frazier and all those involved in the evaluation, the capital plan for the county, which included Countryside, that has brought us to this resolution in front of us, which is prelude to improvements. I just would like to say congratulations. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Supervisor Leggett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance Committee met on the afternoon of March 3rd at the end of a very long day. Before you are 14 resolutions from that committee. 2 are on page 1, and then the rest are on pages 5 and 6. Resolutions 146 through 157. Most of them are pretty much housekeeping that we have, establishing capital project for the airport, agreement with the under the county administrator for social media archiving, something we need to do in this day and age. Adjusting for the cost of insurance. The county treasurer has 2 items here for outstanding taxes. DPW for establishing road front projects, occupancy tax on reapportionment of funds. Again, another apportionment in the tourism from our tax from the county administrator. Community services about office space rental,
Office of Emergency Services. They're starting they need a capital project for the hazard mitigation grant. As I sit on the NACO Resilient Counties Committee, the hazard mitigation plans are absolutely essential because when you need them, you need to know what to do. So look forward to them updating our already good hazard mitigation plans we have for all communities in the county. Planning and community development. There is before you a request for a comprehensive plan as where is he? The chair of economic and planning, Supervisor Wild had mentioned. Here's the last plan we had, 1978. This is what we have to go by to direct the county on what our overall goals and strategies are. We're very well lined up to develop this comprehensive master plan by moving forward recreation plan, housing plan, capital infrastructure plan. We have a lot of the main components already in the works. This would pull them all together into a cohesive and a document that will give us direction. Appreciate your support on that. And then real property tax services. It's about authorizing appropriations for the demolition of Garage Johnsburg. That's it for finance. I will make a comment here that I also have attended the Inter-County, the IDA, the LDC, Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council, NACO meetings online, NISAC in the conference there. I sit on the Ag and Rural Affairs Committee. We passed resolutions regarding solar. That's a big issue all around, but especially as it affects our farmland, that we lose the equivalent, or we will, according to the state's energy plan, to become more green, which is laudable, but it could be at the expense of the equivalent of 200 family farms of the land that it takes over. So taking that ag land out of production really affects this state's standing as the #2 ag producer in the country. The attended budget meetings, and also other ones that I've picked up on, the Common Ground Alliance. We had a winter meeting to do community forums. I made my way down to Glens Falls to attend the Business Improvement District meeting just to say hi and see what they're doing. Supervisor Driscoll was there as well. What a great group. And also I'm on the steering committee for a regional land bank for the Adirondacks. Maybe it'll come down to county-wide, but this is something when it comes into foreclosures of the county does have the ability to pick up those properties, residential properties, perhaps some vacant land, and turn them into usable housing. Other counties have done that. There's 19 land banks around the state right now. It's limited to how many can be. So we discussed it at the LDC yesterday. There was consensus from the LDC to move forward with that. We'll bring it forth to the appropriate committee at the county to see if there's interest in moving that forward as well. If I may, Mr. Chairman, just to add on to what another supervisor had mentioned, it was at my first town board meeting, I engaged in conversation during a privilege of the floor. Afterwards was advised by counsel that the board does not need to reply, and it's probably a good practice not to reply during privilege of the floor. It's to hear and not to debate, not to discuss, because it's a business meeting we're at, and it's very appropriate to follow up afterwards. So thank you for following those guidelines that were given. And then also talking about guidelines and advisory there, I am disappointed to hear that there is such an advisory about limiting discussion, but I take it that's advisory. I will say that I will continue in the finance committee to be open to all supervisors. We're all here. Everything's going to come before this board. Might as well get your voice in early as it comes out of committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Diamond, anything?
No.
Thank you. Supervisor Seaver?
May I just ask a question in response to our finance chair's report?
Sure, sure.
Thank you. I think it's really important that Chris O'Neill coordinate with our county attorney on that very issue, supervisor from Chester, because she was pretty adamant that should we deviate from that advisory opinion, that it could be construed as a violation of open meeting law. And she had actually quite a bit of information on privilege of the floor as well, and that boards can create rules around privilege of the floor. We don't have one that says we don't answer questions. We only have that one resolution from years ago. So it may be something that when she does talk with our county attorney, we want to discuss what are the rules around privilege of the floor, since we don't have many that, and hear what everyone wants to say. But I also think that what you're bringing up is really important, and perhaps this is an opportunity to talk about the extensive time and committee meetings that we have. And is there a way to do it better so we can all represent our constituents fairly? And I think it's a concern given the way this advisory opinion reads and what our county attorney has addressed us as problems already, and his instructions to us to sit on the side to make sure that we're only engaging at the time of privilege of the floor. So I am very, very concerned and disappointed about it, but it may be an opportunity to improve upon our local government and our practices here as a board.
Thank you. Perhaps we move it to the legislative rules. Supervisor Bremer, real quick.
Well, okay, quick. I'll be very quick. Two things that my colleague from Chester mentioned about solar panels and ag. I mean, there are other opportunities for solar panels on existing farms to actually help them maintain that agricultural productivity of the land, especially when they use the solar panel land for sheep grazing and other types of agricultural uses that help that farmer to stay in business and keep their farm alive. The other thing is that there was, in addition to the NISAC resolution about solar panels on ag land, there was one about making sure that we have recyclable solar panels going forward. And also there was a resolution that came through the Climate Action Committee, making sure that we are in support of the climate action plan and that counties and local governments are funded and provided technical support from the state as we go forward with that. So those were important things that came out of NISAC. Additionally, I want to mention, we do have $1 million set aside through the ARPA committee that we talked about last week, 2 weeks ago, to address achievable housing, which is a term I learned at NACO. And a land bank is potentially one of those options, but I'd really like us to be able to talk about that through the ARPA committee, since we have money set aside there to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. All good topics, and just keep them on the front burner. Thank you. Okay, there will be no report from the county administrator. He's on vacation with his family, and we hope that he's enjoyed himself, correct? Report by county attorney.
Thank you. Leading up to today's meeting, the county attorney's office has started the annual ritual and filed the petition for real property tax foreclosure. That was filed on March 9th of 2022. Prior to the end of February, proactive efforts by the treasurer's office and the county attorney's office resulted in 30 parcels on the list that were delinquent being paid, which was an additional 30 parcels that did not need to be included on this year's petition. As we move through the process this year, my office is going to develop and compare and contrast for the board what the current policy is as it's developed through the years in Warren County versus what the state policy and procedure is by statute. There are a number of areas where the county appears to have deviated from state statute. And I'm hoping to highlight those deviations as we work through them, so the board as a whole can hopefully later this year undertake a review of where we've modified state law in the process, and whether for policy reasons that are the exclusive province of the board seeks to continue in that modification or to adjust back to what state law provides. That'll be an ongoing process over the next 30, 60, 90 days. My office has worked on a number of policy review and modifications in the past month to include the travel and education policy, updating the standard rules of the board concerning hiring and firing in conjunction with the county administrator. And that work product is part of your packets at Resolution 145. We're also working with the administrative group on updating the computer usage policy, which will include the email policy, and we hope to have a proposed updated policy out later in March for the next round of committee meetings, not starting next week. There's nothing significant to report on the front of lawsuits since our last board meeting. And my office has also been working to develop a set of standing rules for the Board of Ethics to operate under. The Code of Ethics does not set forth any meaningful procedural guide for the Board of Ethics and defers to the board to establish their own rules for dealing with each area of responsibility. So we're hoping to provide them comprehensive rules for their review, discussion, consideration, modification, and hopefully acceptance by the next board meeting, which is scheduled for Thursday, March 24th at 10 a.m. Subject to your questions, that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions for the county attorney? Supervisor Seaver.
Thank you. I do have one at personnel. I had asked the county attorney if we would be hearing an update on the Morgan case. For obvious reasons, our county, I shouldn't say obvious, our county attorney had expressed that he would not be giving us this update in case he had to make the decision on the disciplinary issues. I thought I understood that we would have an update today and that you'd make that request to Mr. Redding or someone would.
I believe the request through the county administrator and the first assistant, Robert Twilliger, was for the personnel meeting and an update at the personnel meeting. But I'm aware that there was an attempt for some contact. I honestly don't know what the result of that was.
May I?
Thank you.
Just clarify my question?
Sure.
My concern now. Given the limitations on executive session and what can be done as a committee versus a full board, I would ask that those reports on litigation, or at least specifically this one, come to the full board. That was my request of personnel. And I'm hopeful that we will see it here at the full board. We should all have the right to engage in that debate during executive session as we talk about the concerns and ask questions and not have it just limited to the members that are on the committee. This is something that affects all of our constituents. It's a very big price tag, and it is one that I think we're all incredibly invested in. It's my understanding that, nothing has changed in that status, and I'd like to know why. And I think the only way we're going to hear is from our special counsel on that.
And I have absolutely no position or interest in what form the information is conveyed. Whether it's at the personnel committee or at the board. If the board advises me or the personnel committee advises me where they want that to occur, or rather on this one particular case, the county administrator and my first assistant, where that should occur, will arrange it to make it occur, subject to outside counsel's availability and schedule, of course.
So, Mr. Chairman, may we have that report next full board meeting?
Sure. Fine with me.
On the 31st, I believe.
We'll make sure we'll follow.
Thank you.
Okay. Reading communications.
We have Warren County Probation Department monthly reports for family and criminal workloads for the month of January 2022. Lake Champlain, Lake George Regional Planning Board 2021 summary of activities, and Washington County Board of Supervisors resolution number 52 of 22 appointing a member to the Warren, Washington IDA.
Okay. Reading of resolutions.
Resolution numbers 117 through 158 were distributed to the board and posted to the Warren County website on Monday, March 14th, which met the deadline specified in the rules of the board. With your resolutions, there were also 7 proclamations. Those are proclamation number 4, support for Ukraine. Number 5, Women's History Month. Number 6, Development Disabilities Awareness Month. Number 7, Autism Awareness Month. Number 8, Child Abuse Prevention Month. Number 9, National County Government Month. And number 10, Walter Juckett Award. Resolution number 158 was amended after the resolutions were distributed to make a correction, and a motion is needed to approve the revised version as the revisions as they're provided on your desks.
So motion to approve the revisions. Motion by Supervisor Dickinson. Do we have a second by Supervisor Thomas? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, next.
There are also 8 floor resolutions to be addressed. So floor resolution number 1 is waiving the rules for floor resolution number 2. The motion is needed to bring that to the floor.
Somebody want to make that motion by Supervisor Dickinson, second by Supervisor Leggett? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, next.
Floor resolution number 1 is now resolution number 159. Floor resolution number 2 is a resolution amending the table of organization and Warren County salary and compensation plan for 2022 to create and delete positions within the tourism department. Motion is needed to bring that to the floor.
There a motion? Motion by Supervisor Dickinson, second by Supervisor Stroud. Discussion. Supervisor Seaver.
This may be for our clerk of the board, but is a motion to create and delete, or that's to go in the same resolution? My issue with this one is I am opposed to the creation, but support the deletion.
So that is all in one resolution at this point.
So I'll be opposed to it, but just noting that I'm opposed to the creation, not the deletion. I think in the future it would be great to have them separate.
Okay, let's vote on floor resolution number 3. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. This becomes
resolution number 160. Can I just clarify who was opposed?
yes.
Seaver, Dickinson, and Allen. Okay, give me just 1 second.
Dickinson, McGowan, Supervisor Seaver.
Let me just set up we need to do a roll call.
We're going to do a roll call.
This is the vote on the motion to bring floor resolution number 2 to the floor.
Okay.
Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy.
Yes.
Ms. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
No.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yes.
Mr. Weil,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
No.
Ms. Seaver,
No.
Mr. Beatty,
No.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Okay, the resolution to bring it to the floor does pass.
Okay.
So floor resolution number 2 is now resolution number 160. That resolution will be subject to a roll call vote, and because it's creating a position, it will need to have a 2/3 majority vote to pass.
Okay.
Could I ask what that count was, Chairman?
Yes, certainly. It was 682 votes in favor, 320 against.
Okay. Resolution number 3.
Floor resolution number 3 is in order to waive the rules for floor resolution number 4.
Motion by Supervisor Driscoll. Do we have a second by Supervisor Thomas? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Floor resolution number.
Nobody.
Floor resolution number 3 will now be resolution number 161. Floor resolution number 4 is amending the table of organization and Warren County salary and compensation plan for 2022 to create a new position at Countryside Adult Home.
A motion by Supervisor Driscoll, second by Supervisor Dickinson. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Floor resolution number 5 is in order to waive the rules for floor resolution number 6.
Motion to waive the rules by Supervisor McGowan, second by Supervisor Dickinson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, floor resolution number 5 will now be 163. I just back up for a second.
Yeah.
Floor resolution number 4 is now 162, and that will also be subject to a roll call vote and a 2/3 majority requirement.
Okay,
On to floor resolution number 6.
all right.
Which is authorizing appropriation of funds from the general fund unappropriated fund balance and from deferred revenues to fund capital project H406 Countryside Adult Home and amending the Warren County budget.
Motion to waive the rules, right?
Nope, that's the bring.
We're doing that?
Nope.
Motion by Supervisor.
This is to bring number 6 to the floor. This is the resolution.
Motion by Supervisor Dickinson. We have second by Supervisor Thomas to bring resolution number 6 to the floor. Discussion. Supervisor Seaver.
I'm opposed to bringing this resolution to the floor simply because in the resolution 158, we've listed all of the ARPA dollars in one resolution. So if we're doing this, are we then removing it from 158? And that's going to be included in this? Or can we do that and make the 950? I support the improvements at Countryside. I do not support them using ARPA dollars because I feel it's such a valuable resource to our community, and 950,000 is a significant amount of money out of ARPA. But we also heard from our treasurer at the committee meeting who had concerns with this. We discussed it at NISAC, we've discussed it with NACO, and I believe there's still some things that need to be worked out with that. Any which way, I would still oppose it out of ARPA, but support it out of general fund. So how does that work with 158 and with this one?
This is appropriation.
I'm sorry, my question is for the chairman.
I'm going to refer to the,
Finance.
I didn't write it. I don't know what was the intent.
So 158 is I'm sorry.
Go ahead, yes.
158 is what the ARPA committee has authorized for distribution of funds. The floor resolution number 6 is actually the budget portion that is needed to move the money around where it needs to be. So they are two separate actions. One's the ARPA committee saying this is where we want the money to go, and then the other is directing the treasurer to move those funds where they need to be.
Transferred into capital.
Yes. So they wouldn't be together. Those would be two separate things. We do need two separate resolutions on that.
So 158 will remain the way it is, and then these two floor resolutions will,
They're in addition to 158.
and they all relate to that.
Well, 158, I believe, I'm sorry, floor resolution number 6, that's moving the 950,000 into capital project 406. Let's see. Yeah, so there's two different transfers. The 950,000 is what's coming actually from ARPA, correct? And then the 1.352 million, that's what's coming from the general fund to finish off the Countryside project.
And that's resolution number 8.
That's it'll be floor resolution number 6.
So 6 is the general fund. 8.
Floor resolution number 6 is what's telling the treasurer's office to move money into the capital project or into Transpo's capital project, and eventually it will go into the capital project. The other one is the 158 is from the ARPA committee listing out the money that they're essentially authorizing.
May
Those
I,
are the
Chair?
projects.
May I just comment?
Yep. County
So
Attorney.
158 deals with multiple recipients, one of which is Countryside. My understanding of the request that my office received to prepare floor resolution number 6 was that one of those transfers from proposed resolution 158 for Countryside is in resolution number 6, which is $950,000. And the remaining funds are the remaining funds from the general fund to complete the capital improvement project for Countryside. At least that's how we drafted this resolution and what we understood the intent of the resolution to be. And please correct me if that's not the committee's understanding.
Tammy, you have to add more?
Sure. I believe the issue that we're taking up today is due to a timing and when Lamont is here with the Countryside. So On the resolution 158, which outlined the agreements that came out of the ARPA committee, this is the spending plan that they approved at that committee. Then with floor, and I should have brought it over, the floor resolution number 6, basically what that is that is moving the monies to transfer it in for the countryside projects, because it's my understanding, if we don't do that within a certain time frame, we run the risk of losing our grants for that. Is that correct, Wayne? So that's why you're seeing that transfer only today. At some point, you will see transfers for these other items, but that it was not something that had to happen at this meeting.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
So we have a motion to bring, yes, Supervisor.
Thank you. This may be a question for Wayne. Is the 1.3 million the entire amount that has to come out of general fund for this project? I know the project costs something like 4 million.
Right, I believe, well, Kevin's here, but I believe we've already moved or established, appropriated $1 million from the bond, 250,000 from the capital reserve, 300,000 from one small cities grant through the state of New York, $810,938 from another grant. And the issue with that is I have to show the state that we have all the funding together by the end of the month, or those grants are in jeopardy, because we have to show that we're going to move this project forward. So what you're seeing is the 950,000 from ARPA, and then the estimate by Clough Harbor that came out, was it 4.2, 4.3 million. This closes the gap in the estimate of probable cost that was provided by the consultant.
Supervisor Leggett.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to be clear, this includes, and this is why the ARPA funding is appropriate for this, about the ventilation within Countryside to bring it up to a certain standard. Is that correct?
That is correct. Through Kevin's office, the Clark Patterson did an estimate of, it was about 1.2 million to provide MERV 13 compliant ventilation and HVAC within the building. What's interesting is that the rooms in the building currently do not have ventilation. So the cost is really associated with a whole new provision of proper ventilation within the rooms, along with the MERV 13 filtration.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second to get this resolution introduced. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, raise your hands.
Opposed.
One opposed. So this passes.
Okay.
That would be,
Floor resolution number 6 is now resolution number 164.
okay.
Resolution 164 will be subject to a roll call vote, but only requires a simple majority to pass. Floor resolution number 8 is, I'm sorry, number 7 is waiving the rules for floor resolution number 8.
Okay, do we have a motion by Supervisor Bramer, second by Supervisor Dickinson to waive the rules? Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed. Okay.
Okay, floor resolution number 7 will now be resolution number 165. And then we have floor resolution number 8, which is amending resolution number 453 of 2021 to change the source of funding to utilize ARPA dollars, authorize transfer of funds, and amend the county budget.
That's 166 or?
No, that's where you have to.
Oh, okay.
To the floor.
I
For
got you.
resolution number 8.
Okay.
I'll make a
You need
motion.
another motion? Okay, we motion by Supervisor Bramer, second by Supervisor Bruno to bring floor resolution number 8. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed.
And so floor resolution number 8 will now be resolution number 166. That will be subject to a roll call vote, but only a simple majority.
Okay. All right, discussion on other resolutions. Supervisor Seaver.
Now that those are on the floor, my discussion on this item is as it relates to 158, 164, 165, 166. I'd like the county attorney, after I make the statement, to explain to me if 158 doesn't pass, or I'd like to make the suggestion that we remove the countryside adult home 950,000 from the ARPA 158 and create its own resolution for that, so it can be voted on separately. My concern with this is that the ARPA committee I was under the impression all of these would come as separate resolutions, not as one whole resolution. So what we've done here is what we often do with the budget is, everything's in one. So if I vote no, then I'm voting down all these other really positive things with ARPA. And the concern, once again, I understand it's about the HVAC system, but that report came last year. We knew that need. We should have immediately acted and put ventilation systems in Countryside as soon as we knew that there was an issue. This was also a 3-year-old report that highlighted all of the needs of Countryside. And I understand now we've tailored this to just say the HVAC system and the filtration. But the problem with that is last year we knew about it and we didn't fix it. And now conveniently, we're able to use the ARPA dollars, and $950,000 will go such a long way in our community to help local businesses, to help not-for-profits, and to spend money in a way that we can't normally under county dollars. So I support these improvements at Countryside. I wish they were made before, but I would support them with general fund money. And I would very much like to be able to vote on these other items. And in the future, I hope that ARPA does put these on separate resolutions. I know a supervisor from Queensbury had concerns about other aspects of these. This is an all or nothing resolution, and I don't think that's fair to our constituents. And I would just ask for a roll call, I guess, on 158 if we can't pull the Countryside adult home out.
It's up to the board, pleasure of the board. Any further discussion? Supervisor Leggett?
I do believe that the federal government has allotted to this county $12.4 million, out of which this $950,000 comes for exactly this reason. And if it came out of the ARPA board to present to the county, I would take their recommendation. And why? And this is being responsible to our taxpayers, that these are dollars specifically to address critical facilities, especially in a time of pandemic. And an assisted living facility fits into that. So I don't see the problem in allotting $950,000 of ARPA funds to go directly address a vulnerable population and give tax relief to our county residents. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I did want to talk to 158 because it is outlining the important things that we brought through ARPA, aside from Countryside, which we all agree, and all of the ARPA committee agreed too, that Countryside is important and all of those upgrades need to be made. There was, I think, legitimate debate about whether or not we put it through ARPA, which can be used for all sorts of other things and creative things as we go forward, or whether we just take this $950,000 and add it to the other 1.3 million that we're already taking out of general fund, plus the million that we're bonding. So one way or another, we're going to get it done. It's a debate about, do we take it from ARPA that could be used for other things, or do we take it from our general fund? I think it's a difficult decision. And I know that the treasurer had some concerns about using this. There was a presentation at NISAC earlier this week about mixing funded projects with ARPA funded projects. So I had a concern about that. I'm not sure that my question was completely answered prior to today. I would like the treasurer, if he would mind, and if there's no objection, to speak to his concerns about that. And as to 166, I do want to mention that these dollars for everything that was listed in here have already been spent. This is just going to be setting aside, or actually not setting aside, using ARPA money to pay for all of those things. So I hope that everyone will support 166 as well as 158, even if we pull out the 950 for Countryside and do something different with that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want the treasurer to address us?
I would. He brought up some important concerns at ARPA, and I will say it was a split vote. That, it wasn't a significant, not everyone agreed that we should be using the 950 out of ARPA.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, we did have this was vetted very fully at committee. And although I was opposed to it, I will stand behind what the committee decided, that's how they want to use the funds, then that's how the funds should be used. It was a committee vote and it was the majority went with this. As far as my concerns about whether we can use this money with bonded money and those type of things, I am satisfied with the research that I've done and everything, that we are okay with that. The only problem that I could really find was, and this, I guess, is addressed at Wayne, is it may affect how the reporting is done because the entire project is over $1 million. So, and I think that can be worked out. It's just going to be a matter of doing a little bit more work.
Thank you.
Question.
You have a question, Supervisor McGowan?
Yes, thank you. You know, it's a lot of money for one building. This is a long time project that that we're working on here. You know, with all the work that has to be up that $4 million. And Mike, I have a question coming up to you. So, you know, my whole deal is, you know, it's the same as the SRE building there at the airport. You know, these are a long time assets, and we need to maintain them or replace them as time ages everything. So, so I don't feel, even though it could fall in with the compliance of using the ARPA money, I don't feel comfortable with this. And Mike, I brought it up as, you know, adding it onto the bond, and you told me that, you know, it's a little difficult because you've already started the process. And you know, and I was walking away from the meeting, I said to myself, can we get another bond for this? Can we go after another bond for, you know, for just the AC part alone? I mean, the rates are low right now.
Yes, we
just
could.
had
The
a
answer
lot.
to that is yes, we could. There's no question. However, that means we'd have to start the whole process, another complete whole process. You know, because there's a resolution that authorizes me to borrow X number of dollars for a certain thing. We have started with my fiscal advisor advertising. We've got the attorneys all lined up. Everything is all in place to do that $1 million. If we want to do, plus other projects that we have. But if we want to do more than that, then basically we got to go to finance and have the finance committee approve the idea of borrowing more money, and then bring it back to the full board, have the resolution approved to authorize me to do it, and start the whole process for an additional loan. I don't like doing that because if you keep doing that, every time you go to borrow more money, there's more costs incurred. That's why when we started this, we kind of lumped everything, the Bolton retaining wall and everything else that the paving projects and whatever, we all lumped it into one so that it will save the county money. I just had a conversation with our budget officer this morning about the best way to proceed with this, because I'm at the point now where I have to do it. And we've come up with a way I think that's going to work out very well for the county.
All right, but yeah, like I said, I was just throwing it out there so everybody could hear, you know, that would be the option. For me, I don't have a problem taking it out of the general fund.
Supervisor Seaver, and then Supervisor Thomas wants to address.
Thanks. I've heard two different things, and I guess maybe you can clarify it, Treasurer Swan. I heard Supervisor, the co-chair from Glens Falls of ARPA say that that final resolution 166 is as it relates to all the items in 158. But I heard our assistant county administrator say it's only as it relates to the ARPA dollars for countryside, and that's it. So I just want to be clear from our treasurer's perspective, if you're saying you're going to stand behind this and that it's all legit and that there's no concerns about bonding, match money, grant money, everything combined to countryside, I'm in a horrible position where if the board won't support pulling out the capital improvements, the HVAC, making it a separate resolution, that I will support the full 158 because I believe the ARPA is important, but we will have members of this community come forward looking for funding for things that we can't typically do in the county. And we will be telling them no, because we only have 6 million right now to be able to utilize an ARPA. And I think that's a shame when we're talking about resiliency and recovery from a pandemic. But that being said, if 158 stays the way that it is resolution 166 only as it relates to the ARPA dollars being transferred for the countryside project and not everything in here.
Good. I guess I've got to read it better.
What one's the ARPA one to countryside? That's all I want to know.
May I, Chair?
Well, Larry?
I can, my office drafts all resolutions, or at least we
Right.
attempt to follow what we understand the intent to be. So for resolution 8 is for two amounts, $228,810, $22,600. That funding on proposed resolution 158 is the reimbursement for equipment replacement and costs of $251,580. So proposed resolution 166 has nothing to do, and please correct me if I'm incorrect, with Countryside. Maybe there's equipment at Countryside that's covered in that replacement cost, but it's not part of the number that's in the $1.3 million number that's on resolution 164, I believe it is.
So 164, which was resolution 6, is the one from ARPA dollars for the 950.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, is there any other discussion? Supervisor Thomas, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I address the treasurer? Didn't your office do a calculation of lost revenue that totaled close to $10 million?
Correct.
It's my understanding that the federal legislature or federal rules authorized every entity that's receiving money that they could write off, basically take 10 million and claim it as lost revenue.
Correct.
That's my understanding. While I'm not promoting that to this board, I think, when you're taking money from ARPA, you can also say it's lost revenue if that's what you want to do. You know what I mean? So I think that we're well within the guidelines of ARPA, and I think that we should proceed. I think Countryside is an excellent place to appropriate some of that.
Can I just add something real quick?
Sure.
My concern, Supervisor Thomas, was mixing ARPA dollars with bond money. That was where my concern was, because you can't use ARPA money for debt service. So I wanted to make sure that wasn't a line that we were crossing there inadvertently. And I figured out that we are okay with that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on resolutions? Supervisor Diamond and then Supervisor Conover.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution 156, Lane is here today, and I have some questions around the $200,000 of monies that's being appropriated from the unanticipated fund balance to this particular contract, line item for contract. Wayne, could you, I know there was a presentation given at the Finance Committee, but could you go over that briefly? I have some questions in regards to the process, the timeline for this grant.
Okay.
For this planning opportunity.
Sure. All right, a couple things. I was not at finance. Ethan did that, but that's not an issue. What this stems from is about a year ago, I think Supervisor Leggett and I had a discussion about doing a strategic plan for the county. And at that point in time, I reached out to the New York through NISAC, through the County Planners Association, and asked what other counties had done. And I've got a bunch of email responses from them. And basically, to use a consultant services for this, which is what we would have to do. We just, unless you don't want the planning department to do anything else for the next year, we'd have to engage outside services. It ranges anywhere from $150,000 to $260,000 is what Monroe County, Allegheny, no, I think it was Allegheny, Fulton County, all going through the process right now. And they were kind enough to share their RFPs. It's about an 18-month process. So what we were looking for is using the information provided by Fulton County and by, Monroe County. As I said, we got they provided their RFPs and we looked at their task list and their scope of services and have
developed an RFP that we probably could release in the next couple of weeks, really. We just, Ethan and I had a great discussion about adding some benchmarking and some metrics in it. But beyond that, I think we're at the point where we could give it to the purchasing office to put all the boilerplate and county RFP process into it. So what this really comes down to, and for those of you that know, I'm somewhat of a dinosaur here. You know, I've been here 41 years. I've gone through 116 different members on this board in that time. And I see this comprehensive plan as a document that as new members come on the board, they can see the history and they can see the policies and goals actually that the county has, and understand that when they come into committee process, when they work with departments, these are the policies and the goals that the county has established. I'd also recommend that there be every two to 3 years, a good hard look at those policies and goals to understand new and emerging technologies. The County Planners Association had a meeting this morning, 9 o'clock. Big issue out in the other part of the state is solar and battery storage. The location of the batteries, that 300 megawatt battery packs that are being cited. Yes. So, have we really looked at that issue? So again, these are 1,000-acre, farms, so I don't see us having those, but has the county even looked at that as an issue? So those are the types of things that we want to address and say, this is the county's policy regarding that or anything else. That, as a county under General Municipal Law, Section 239, reviews local projects. Staff does that. That would give us the tool to look at and say, what is the county's policy? What are the county's action plan items, goals and objectives relative to whatever area? So again, it's something that I gave to Supervisor Leggett, the last county plan, 1978. And I think it's a little outdated. So I would encourage support for this. I think it's, as a planner, I think it's something we've been asking for a long time. And I think it's time to do it. So I'd ask the support of the board.
I got a couple more questions for you, Wayne.
Sure.
Is it going to be necessary to send out a request for qualifications?
My understanding is we have to send out a request for proposals, not qualifications. Yes.
And you mentioned that it's somewhere between right around $200,000. That's what this appropriation amount is today. It was also mentioned that there's going to be an advisory committee. I'm really interested in the makeup of the advisory committee and how those individuals that are going to be on that are selected. Could you talk about that?
Right now, that's not been determined. What we're going to ask as part of the proposal process, is there a public engagement plan? A broad brush, we're not asking them to do, $10,000 worth of work to submit a proposal to not get it. But, they've done this work elsewhere. What sectors of the economy, of the public sector, private sector, do they usually include? But yes, there will be a steering committee, advisory committee that will probably run through the planning committee, economic development, as to establish that. So there's input there as to who will be on it. Right now, I can't tell you who would be on it. Certainly there would be some members from the board, again, private sector. I think looking at some of the members on the ARPA committee, we've got a pretty good cross section from some parts of the sector of, public health sector, the business sector. So we would look to probably include some of those. Again, if you get too big an advisory committee, nothing ever really gets done. So we'd look to have a good working group, but nothing that is going to be a free for all.
I know Johnsburg's looking to do a comprehensive plan.
Correct.
And I know Town of Queensbury's updated theirs on a regular basis. City of Glens Falls. Are these plans that have already been established and done, are they going to be included in this packet?
The consultant and us internally will certainly look at the overall objectives and ideas that are presented in all the local plans. That's part of the RFP process, is that there's an assessment of all the local plans. to kind of look for consistent themes, to look for things that become a county issue. This is different than the town comprehensive plan. This is under section 239 of general municipal law. It's not under town law, village law, city law. So there's different authorities that are granted there. And so we would look to stay within GML 239 authorities, but again, provide a framework for how this board could move forward. And so the short answer is yes, we will look at all the local laws and rules and then and ordinances, but will they be included? No, they may be referenced. And again, their vision statements or how they articulate certain issues may resonate up to a county level. We'll have to wait and see.
You did mention that the RP, it hasn't been drafted yet, the RP?
I have a rough draft. I think 90% of it is done. I don't know, it's 26 pages or so right now of tasks. Again, we're looking to add benchmarking to it yet and some other things. So
could I get a copy of that once it's completed?
Oh, certainly.
Good, thank you.
Supervisor Conover, you're next.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Kevin Hayes could respond to this, if that would be allowed on resolution 138. I think it's an error, Kevin, on 138 in the middle. It says Watering Tub Road, Town of Chester. Should that be the Town of Horicon? 138, the middle, first box, middle of that first box.
It very well maybe. I can take a look at it. Watering Tub Road is right on the border of Chestertown and Horicon. So I'm not sure where it falls. It probably is in Horicon. I'm not 100% sure right now, Ron, without looking at a map, but it's on a line in there.
Which is for specificity, Mr. Chairman, would it be advisable if we put Watering Tub Road, Chester / Horicon, just so that later we don't have ourselves an issue where we're spending money in one town, but we're authorized for another?
I believe we can do that via clerk's correction.
Clerk's correction. Okay, thank you.
Okay, is that acceptable to the board? Yes. Supervisor Bramer, you had a question on resolutions.
I do have a question, and thank you for your patience. I'm going to ask us to go back to 158. The question that just came about a correction reminded me that I had a question about this wording in the first one about employment and training administration. This is a great opportunity that came through our director of employment and training in collaboration with Crandall Library to provide laptop computers and tablets that would basically be available from the library for people to check out when they need assistance with job searching. And I think that the vice chair brought up the question about making sure that these are available to people also in rural areas, not only rural areas. In both both downtown Glens Falls or our surrounding communities and rural areas. So I just wanted to see if that could be administratively corrected, or if I should make a motion to amend the resolution to suggest that job seekers throughout Warren County would be able to
We do that.
borrow these.
We can do that through
Thank you.
clerk's correction. Okay, any more comments on any discussion on proposed resolutions? Anything from the public on discussion on resolutions, Don?
Morning, Chairman Gary. No, there's no comment on YouTube.
Okay, then I guess we'll go to roll call votes. Request for roll call votes. Anybody request a roll call that hasn't already been requested? Okay, then we'll go to vote on resolutions. Okay. Okay. We only have one roll call vote? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna faint. We have a roll call vote on 158.
Point of order. I had removed, I didn't request a roll call on that.
I'm sorry, I thought you had said you wanted a roll call if it
I
could
want
be
to
removed.
discuss those things. I'll withdraw that request.
Thank you. No, a vote on resolutions. All those in favor of resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We have to do, we have a bunch of.
Don't we have about 15 different roll calls?
Oh, I'm sorry. Should we have roll call?
What's going on?
Take the mask.
Oh, yeah, we got a lot of other. Right.
I mean, I'm looking at this as like 15 different roll calls and you said there's no roll call.
Oh, geez, I made a mistake. Wow.
Not you, Kevin.
All right.
You wouldn't do that.
Resolution number 117, making supplemental appropriations. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier? Yes. Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
yes,
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver? Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yes. Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes.
Okay.
Resolution number 118, amending Warren County budget for 2022. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer? Yes. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier? Yes. Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
yes,
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yes. Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 144, amending table of organization and salary and compensation plan for 2022. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Oops, sorry. Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier? Yes. Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
yes,
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon? Yes. Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 146, establishing capital project H414 Airport Runway 119 remarking program. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier? Yes. Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
yes,
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 148, authorizing appropriation of funds from the general fund unappropriated surplus to the sheriff and unallocated insurance budgets. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yeah.
Mr. Wild?
yes,
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 151, establishing 2022 road fund projects and amending Warren County budget. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
yes,
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 152, authorizing the reappropriation of funds from the occupancy tax reserve to the tourism budget. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
yes,
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 153, authorizing appropriation of funds from the occupancy tax reserve to the tourism budget. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
yes,
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 155, establishing capital project H413 Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 156, authorizing appropriation of funds from the general fund unappropriated surplus to the planning budget to cover the cost of a qualified consultant to prepare a comprehensive plan for Warren County. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 157, authorizing appropriation of funds from the Environmental Testing Reserve Fund to the Real Property Tax Services budget. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes.
All right.
Resolution 160, amending table of organization and Warren County salary and compensation plan for 2022 to create and delete positions within the tourism department. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
No.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
No.
Mr. Dickinson?
No.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
No.
Ms. Seaver?
No.
Mr. Beatty?
No.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
No.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Right, that resolution fails. It required 668 votes in favor for the 2/3 majority. We had 553 in favor and 449 against. Resolution 162, amending table of organization and Warren County salary and compensation plan for 2022 to create a new position at Countryside Adult Home. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Seaver?
Yes.
Mr. Beatty?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution 164, authorizing appropriation of funds from the general fund unappropriated fund balance and from deferred revenues to capital project H406 Countryside Adult Home. Mr. McDevitt?
Yes.
Ms. Bramer?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier?
Yes.
Mr. Drossy?
Yes.
Ms. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson?
Yes.
Mr. Merlino?
Yes.
Mr. Stroud?
Yes.
Mr. Wild?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
No.
Ms. Seaver?
No.
Mr. Beatty?
This is for authorizing the ARPA money. Is that correct?
This is authorizing appropriation of funds from the general fund balance and from deferred revenue to the, so it's ARPA funds and general fund funds to Countryside.
Obviously, I support Countryside. The mingling, though, of this is rather disturbing because I put a lot of faith in what the county treasurer said at the ARPA meeting that it should come out of the general fund. I will vote no on this.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Runyon?
Yes.
Mr. Conover?
Yes.
Mr. Leggett?
Yes.
Mr. Diamond?
Yes.
Chairman Garrity?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Resolution number 166, amending resolution 453 of 2021 to change the source of funding and utilize ARPA dollars. Mr. McDevitt,
Yes.
Ms. Bramer,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll,
Yes.
Mrs. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Drossy,
Yes.
Ms. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Dickinson,
Yes.
Mr. Merlino,
Yes.
Mr. Stroud,
Yeah.
Mr. Wild,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Seaver,
Yes.
Mr. Beatty,
Yes.
Mr. Thomas,
Yes.
Ms. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Conover,
Yes.
Mr. Leggett,
Yes.
Mr. Diamond,
Yes.
Chairman Garrity.
Yes.
Resolution passes. Now you need a collective. vote.
Collective, all those in favor of the other resolutions signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, carried. Privilege of floor, public comment. Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to bring up the fact of the matter is that, you know, everybody's aware that we do have an employee that's on paid leave of absence. And I'd like to suggest, and I have in the past, that maybe we can resolve this issue, that we bring the individual back. The individual is currently earning up to $50,000 a year, getting all the benefits that everybody else is getting, including retirement, sick time, vacation time, paid holidays. But the individual is not performing any function for the county. I just think that's a poor message to be sending to everybody. Look at the price of gas now, almost $5 a gallon. And this individual could conceivably go out and get another full-time job. So I would like to ask the board to consider bringing this individual back, giving her assignment in Warren County, and maybe we can get through some of this process. But I just don't agree with the fact that that the individual is out on, you know, paid leave of absence. I think it sends the wrong message entirely. All the hardworking people, even the employees that are sitting up here today. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Supervisor Bramer.
I want to echo my concerns about this continuing to drag on, and I would ask that we have a full report at our board meeting on the 31st.
Okay.
Go into executive session for an attorney report. Thank you.
Okay. Supervisor Merlino.
On the no vote on resolution 160, I don't know if everybody realized what we're doing. Maybe it's my fault. We didn't explain it. But without this vote, we're going to lose 2 people in tourism, 20-year people and more in the next couple of months. One of them we have out RFP right now to try to replace. And the other one, we're going to have to try to replace somebody that's been taking care of our books for OCTAX and everything else for 20-some years, who has to retire and then come back part-time. And we have another employee that we did bring in last year that's starting to learn that process. Now we have to go out and try to get a whole new person at a higher value of money. Instead of somebody coming in part-time, less than half the money, and that could teach the person that we have from last year all the rules of this part. You're stymieing the tourism department. We're gonna have 2 new people then in the middle of the year. Very important business. We bring in a lot of money. We do a lot of work advertising the county. I just don't understand why this was turned down. I hope it wasn't because I put it forward, but it should be reconsidered before, maybe for next month. We'll go back to some of the committees and see. The committee that it was failed was the finance. Finance, I was there. It was an hour and 15 minutes late getting started. I had a doctor's appointment. I had to leave. Mr. Driscoll had to leave. And I think Mr. Bruno wasn't there. Otherwise, it would have been approved at that finance meeting. So I'm just disappointed. We talk about money, saving taxpayers' money. This money comes out of OCTAX. It's not even our county budget. So I just don't understand why I got the no votes. And that's my complaint. Thank you.
Anybody else? Supervisor Dixon.
Yeah, I got 2 quick announcements. I was pleased to see the call for support for the Ukraine today. I have been contacted by a number of people in the town of Lake George who have Ukrainian connections. We have a lot of our J1 students are Ukrainian. Great workers. They're all nice kids. So there's a lot of connection with Lake George in the Ukraine. The town board has passed a motion at Monday's meeting. We are going to erect a flagpole and put up the Ukrainian flag at the welcoming corner in Lake George and Luzerne Road and Route 9. That's in the process right now. You all will be notified when we do that. It'll be a little ceremony there. The last thing is, I appreciate John's kudos on the sewage treatment plant. He's absolutely right, but I want to point out that the mayor was the leading driver of that thing. I just rode on his coattails and showed up for the pictures. He did a great job. It's up and running, and we're looking forward to cleaning up the lake with it. And it has given us the opportunity to do our Bolton Road project, as well as expand our sewer system in other areas because they have the capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Wayne?
One thing I'd like to bring up, Resolution 164, authorized funding for Countryside. On the planning committee agenda for next Tuesday is just a blurb on discussion on Countryside, but we will need to do a resolution for the end of the month board meeting to take that money out of the transfer account and put it in H406. Now, quite honestly, that's Kevin's responsibility because that's a facility and whatever, but as far as a public notice of actions to be taken, that's not on our agenda. So I'd just like to make that announcement that we will be amending our agenda to include a resolution to transfer those funds out of the transfer account into H406.
Okay. Anybody who wants the first bite of the apple? You've already.
I'll make a motion to adjourn in just 1 second,
Well,
but, oh,
I
sorry.
have other people have their hand.
Let me just make an announcement then I want to say, because thank you, Supervisor Driscoll. Because we have a proclamation on for Women's History Month. I just want to acknowledge that last year, we made history by having our first female chair of the Board of Supervisors here in Warren County. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Driscoll?
Thank you, Chairman. I've got 3 quick announcements. Catch some basketball at Glens Falls Civic Center this weekend. The games are already going on, so I don't want to hold anyone up if you're planning on going down today. Great basketball, and I know I'll be down there for the next 3 days. Secondly, in 2019, I had the opportunity to visit each and every municipality in Warren County. I did that in wearing 2 different hats. My hat as an employee of Catholic Charities, I spoke about food and nutrition insecurity that exists in Warren County. Approximately 7,000 residents of Warren County currently receive SNAP benefits, and there's many more that haven't yet received those. And my job is to help provide information referral to those individuals and families. And the second part of my attendance at those meetings is to put on my Board of Supervisor hat and get to know each and every town, introduce or reintroduce myself to town board members and listen in, attend the duration of their business meeting and let them know that I'm also interested in what's going on in their individual towns. And I've already done one presentation in the town of Queensbury, and I'm scheduled to visit towns the next 3 months, and really even leading into the spring and summer in order to visit all of those communities. The second bit of information is on January 1st, I became the chairman of the Glens Falls Housing Authority with the retirement of Jerry DiMano. I was originally appointed to the Glens Falls Housing Authority by Mayor Diamond. At that time, I was a private citizen. No meeting that I've ever attended during the last 4+ years as a member of that board, as the vice chairman, have I ever been County Supervisor Bennett Francis Xavier Driscoll. I've been Ben Driscoll. When I do my county business, I'm also a volunteer. When I'm out in the community doing activities. On this board are men and women who volunteer our time, community organizations, at church, at schools, civic engagement, veterans organizations, fire departments, EMTs, all kinds of activities. I don't think that any of us, when we're volunteering, do we pull rank and say, well, I'm an elected official. We do it because we believe in our communities. We want to serve. We want to share our time and talents in order to make this a better, our communities a better place to live in. So there was a comment made earlier about an appointment of an elected official. I know that elected official who is serving as a volunteer on a board. He's a volunteer on a board. He's not an elected official. He's a volunteer on a board who brings a wealth of experience, talents, and knowledge about the community. And I think that that's why all of us look to find opportunities to share our time and talents, is because we have something to offer in addition to the duties and responsibilities that we have here. Thank you.
Supervisor Malino, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'll end the meeting. Lake Luzerne has a company called Meadow Meadows. We've been working with them for 3 years. They are now fully in operation in town of Lake Luzerne. They're employing about 30 people. They make cheese in 48 states, and they have 3 countries that they send cheese to. And they have just been awarded one of the top 10 cheeses. It's called Kunis. And I've tasted it. It's really good. I'm not particularly happy with cheeses, but they were top 10 out of 3,000 entries in cheese testing. And we're really proud of that. And we have another company called Utopia. It's a lamping company, the fancy camping. They've been nominated 16th in the country of their profession. So we're happy having 2 really highly rated companies in our town. Thank you.
Just before we leave, Don, is there any other comment on YouTube?
Hello, Chairman Garrity. No, there's nothing on YouTube.
The motion to adjourn by Supervisor Dickinson. Do we have a second? Second by Supervisor Drossy. Discussion.